Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and I watched Memory last night, the new Liam Neeson movie, and I gotta say, it's exactly what I expected it to be. It was the generic Liam Neeson action flick that had become the staple of his career the last few years, ever since really Taken took off. Hey, Taken took off, is when this kind of started for him, this section of his career. This film does try to tackle some quite heavy and complex subject matter, such as human trafficking, child abuse, sexual abuse, Alzheimer's, treating of the elderly. Like, it tries to question some of those issues, kind of delve into them to a deeper degree, but I think it fails at doing it in any sort of meaningful way more than as a plot device. Even the memory aspect, the Alzheimer's aspect, seems to come and go and isn't very consistent within the story, and only really affects the end. Besides Liam Neeson taking pills throughout the movie, that's when it affects the most, is at the very end. But overall, since it was what it was intended to be, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. It was a fun action flick, kind of a distraction, nothing special, nothing that disastrous, just kind of, you know what, you get into it. There's not really much to say in terms of spoilers, so I'll wait for those to the end because there's really not much. Yeah, the biggest problem is there wasn't as much action as you'd expect from a Liam Neeson action movie. It was very sparse. I can only really think of two major action set pieces, and the rest were like they occasionally shoot at each other, but it wasn't like that big of a scenario. It wasn't as tense. It wasn't as drawn out as you would have expected from a movie like this. It more tried to focus on the investigation aspect of the story into the complex issues it was addressing. It tried to explore those more than focusing on the action of it. And it did subvert my expectations in a few points, and it did it in ways that were a lot better than casual, like Rian Johnson ways. Rian Johnson's like, what is the thing that will piss people off the most? I'm going to do that. This movie was like, what will be the most unexpected thing? So they're not necessarily, either of them aren't necessarily good approaches. But when used right, subverting expectations isn't a big deal, and it can be quite good when used properly. And this film did it definitely a lot better than, of course, Rian Johnson. Anyone can use that better than Rian Johnson. But it wasn't always to the benefit of the story. Sometimes it was quite to the detriment. And some of the characters were pretty thin. Pretty much all of them were. Even Ray Stevenson's Danny, who I liked at first, he just kind of got generic near the last half, and they did set up his genericness because the Linda, the detective who's partnered with Guy Pearce, she just hated him for no reason. She just blatantly hated him and was mocking him, being rude to him at crime scenes, just being an overall bitch for no reason whatsoever. But then she was vindicated by the end of the movie. So yeah, that was fucked up and shallow. It was just like, oh, I see what you're doing here. Liam Neeson, he did a good job. It was a very interesting performance from him. A very scatterbrained, he really delved into the Alzheimer's aspect of it, at least in his performance, not necessarily in the script writing. The script kind of forgot about it occasionally, but he really was like, all right, do they shake this certain way? Do they mumble this way? Like, it seems like he at least put in quite a bit of effort into it, and it came across interestingly, especially at one point he has to do self-surgery on himself after getting shot while going through an episode, and it's actually a pretty cool scene. Kind of reminded me of the self-surgery scene from The Martian. I mean, the injury was kind of in the same place too, but it was just kind of a good scene. That was a good scene. And very visceral, very graphic, and very accurate, at least to my understanding. I mean, I don't think alcohol lights that quickly and that brightly, but it was still a pretty interesting scene. The villains were all shallow and uninteresting. I really didn't connect with any of them or feel anything when they got their comeuppance or got away. There were so many of them that it was kind of just how it went. Yeah, not really anything to speak of in the villain department. Guy Pearce was probably the best part of the movie. He had such a weird look, though, like the long hair, the mustache. It was just an odd look for him. But he definitely brought his A game, especially when it came to his relationship with the little Hispanic girl that Liam Neeson refused to kill, and that's kind of the inciting incident that they talk about in the trailers. His relationship with her is really born out of his recent loss of his wife and son in a driving under the influence accident on the freeway. So yeah, he definitely brought his A game. He was definitely the best part of it. Very interesting story, and I want to get into spoilers briefly here. So spoiler alert: at the very end of the movie, his one of his partners is a Mexican cop who's come up to help investigate in the human trafficking portion of their case. And when the U.S. government and the U.S. Attorney's Office are unable to prosecute the main villain of the story, the Mexican cop goes out on his own and seeks justice in his own violent way. And Guy Pearce is given an alibi by his partner Linda at a bar, and just his realization of what just happened was actually a really good scene. Like when he turns to Linda and it's like, "Did you just give me an alibi?" While she's giving some sort of Spanish prayer to free the souls of the abused women and children from this sex trafficking ring that they were investigating. Very interesting scene. That was probably the most interesting part, and that was right before the credits rolled. And yeah, besides that, there were some surprising deaths, some fun characters that were side characters. The most interesting characters besides Guy Pearce were the side characters. Like one of Liam Neeson's victims, one of the bad guys' wife. She was kind of this fun trophy wife who was drunk all the time. She was just kind of a fun performance, interacting with the Mexican cop a little bit, and yeah, she was just fun. Besides that, not really anything of a note happened. Not anything of really note to review. It was just kind of generic action movie. Fun distraction. I wouldn't recommend going to the theater for it unless you really love Liam Neeson in these types of movies. Wait till it comes out on streaming platforms or something like that. If there's nothing else going on, I think you'll enjoy it, but I wouldn't go out of my way to see a movie like this. That's just kind of how I feel about stuff like this. I'd have to give this a 5 out of 10 probably, and I did enjoy it. It's just quality wise, it is still pretty low when it comes to quality. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.